What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Miss Teen Crypto Show. I hope everybody is having a lovely Tuesday. Guys, I'm feeling the zest today. I'm feeling really, really, really good. If you guys are new to the channel or you're just here to hang out, make sure you like, subscribe, and share this stream out with friends. And yeah, I'm really happy to be here. I have one thank you first. Wax Blockchain. Thank you for sponsoring the show. You guys are really awesome. Make sure to look out for Blockchain Brawlers and everything they're doing at Tyranno Studios. I want to waste no time and talk to a really good friend of mine here, Matt Medved, the CEO of NFT Now. Welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm doing amazing. Thank you for having me. I'm very excited we get to chop it up.
Of course. We're both New Yorkers. We're both feeling the vibe. It's been a shaky few days with the weather here. How have you been feeling about the rain? Are you a rain person?
Ooh, I actually don't mind the rain. Sometimes when the sun is too bright, like Miami, LA, it's like always so bright. The weather's too nice. I almost feel like this pressure that I have to be outside. Obviously, you can tell from my skin tone that doesn't happen enough here. But it's been a really, really busy past week for NFT Now. We announced the gateway. So I've had no shortage of reasons to stay inside and work. So I actually didn't mind the weather at all.
Yeah, sometimes we do need to go outside and touch grass, but we also need to stay in and just focus and grind on our work. And as I've been saying lately, that this is not a bear market, this is a build market, and that's exactly what you're doing. And I'm happy to see it, Matt. But I want to take a moment and learn more about you, dive into your life, the past, the youth of Matt Medved. What were you up to in college? What did you want to do with your life?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I did my undergraduate at Northwestern up in Evanston in Illinois, and I studied journalism. And what's funny is I really wanted to do music journalism, and I was very much focused on that. Then I kind of pivoted more towards international journalism after an experience I had in South Africa. I got to work for a daily afternoon newspaper called the Cape Argus in Cape Town. Was covering a lot of social issues there, and it kind of opened my eyes and kind of expanded my horizons beyond just music, but also the power that journalism could have to make a positive impact. And ended up actually working in some nonprofits and the like there too before I came back around to music journalism. And founded Billboard's dance and electronic music brand in 2015. Then ran Spin magazine as editor-in-chief after that. Spin was always my favorite magazine growing up, so that was very special. And then was running content actually at Modern Luxury, the lifestyle publisher, when my good friend Blau, the DJ producer, is very active in the NFT space. He pulled me down the NFT rabbit hole in fall of 2020, and that started everything from then. But it's been a wild ride, and for me, NFTs were kind of the technology that I had believed in for a very long time, because as I mentioned earlier to you, I actually started dabbling in crypto back in 2013 with Bitcoin. But it was the technology I believed in for a very long time, finally disrupting the fields I'm actually passionate about, like art, music, and culture, and in a way that can help empower creators. So it's kind of been an interesting full circle, because now not only do I get to work with musicians, but artists and creators all across the board.
You're living like 20 lifetimes with all of these careers that you've had, but they're all so significant. Working in music journalism, how did you feel that music has been impacted since the rise of social media? And do you think that has impacted the journalistic part of that as well?
That's a great question. So look, like with the rise of social media and especially streaming, the upside to that is that you can now, as an artist or a musician anywhere in the world, reach a global audience. Yeah. If your song takes off, it can be an absolute game changer. It was harder in a different way to break an act or break an artist prior to like the internet and social media, right? Because it was heavily reliant on radio play, and radio had its own traditional gatekeepers who got to kind of decide like who gets heard. What's interesting is that with the advent of streaming and social media, you'll now see artists with unconventional songs like take off on streaming, just because of listener, user behavior. And now the radio, rather than getting like the radio, like programmers, rather than getting to decide who gets heard, they have to scramble to keep up with the trends that are happening.
Exactly.
Which is a really fundamental shift. And like you see songs like, for example, like Bad Guy by Billie Eilish. That is not a typical like pop song that would normally like never get radio play 2 decades ago, but radio had to play it because it was the hottest song. And you got to kind of like move beyond what these gatekeepers like felt should be heard. And that's actually what really inspires me about Web3, NFTs, and beyond, is being able to move past those gatekeepers. I think a similar thing is happening right now in the art world as a result of NFTs. The major auction houses and galleries but before NFTs, they got to decide who got seen and who got put on. And now they are scrambling to keep up with this medium native culture and movement that is bringing all these new digital artists to a table they've never had a seat at before.
That's really true how, radio had their own gatekeepers. I was even, looking into Queen and things like that. It was even in their movie that they came out with, Bohemian Rhapsody, that they didn't want to play Bohemian Rhapsody because it wasn't a traditional song. It was too long. And they were like, no one's going to play this. We don't want to put it out.
Right.
So Queen was like, bye, and they went and did it and had their own friend at a radio station just put it on for them, and it blew up. So it was just, you had to go around so many different things, whereas now you upload a video and it could go ballistic. And even with TikTok now, TikTok spearheads this stuff and even makes older songs relevant again if it becomes a trend, which I thought was crazy. Now I'm really thinking about it talking with you.
100%. And one thing I'll add too is I kind of highlighted the good side of it, but there is also a bit of a flip side with streaming, which is, we went from, as a society, paying, $20 for a CD to now paying $9.99 for all the music in the world, right? And there's been a value gap there, and artists have largely suffered from that. And that's why, like they always say, there's no middle class in music. You have the people who are like, at the top, and you have those who are struggling to get by. And that's one of the reasons why I'm also really passionate about the intersection of Web3 and music, especially music NFTs, as a way of sort of being able to actually make good on the original promise of the internet. The whole idea of like 1,000 true fans, where, all you need is 1,000 fans who really like pick up what you put down, who buy the ticket, take the ride, show up to the show, buy the merch, all that. You actually don't need millions of fans to have a successful career as a creative. You may not be Justin Bieber, you may not be Drake, but you could still have a sustainable career. The issue is that in Web 2, all these centralized platforms got in the way with their ads and their algorithms, to the point that you were having to pay an Instagram, for example, to reach even a fraction of your own following, which is ridiculous, right?
So true.
And so what excites me about NFTs and Web3 is the opportunity to move to a more decentralized model where you can directly reach and reward your most loyal fans, and help them support you in a much more sustainable way, and give artists the optionality that they don't have to sign one of these like soul eroding, like value consuming major label deals that it's going to take more than 80% of ownership of what they're doing. We're already seeing some incredible crypto-based crowdfunding models and NFT-based crowdfunding models where artists are raising the amount that they would normally get for a label advance, but doing it by giving up a fraction of the ownership, and critically, they are giving that ownership to their fans, not to some major label that doesn't really care whether they live or they die and only cares about the bottom line and is happy to shelf their project for 10 years or whatever.
That's absolutely true, because I remember something going on with Taylor Swift, and I think she wanted to leave this record label, something like that.
Yeah.
But the fact is she couldn't use her music anymore or reuse her music because it technically wasn't her music, which is a complete like mind frick. You're like, she's saying it. These are her words out of her mouth, yet she doesn't own them. And we even saw this with Kanye today, where Yeezy came out and said, well, Adidas said, hey, bros, well, Yee is out of here, and we still own the IP to the colors, the designs, and they could technically rebrand the Yeezy shoes and give Yee nothing, which is like, whoa.
That's why we always say with Web3, it's about like an ownership based model. Web 2 is you're kind of like a renter on the internet. So in these other examples, it's like, the game in Web 2, for like an artist or a creator, used to be building audience as a means to the end of monetizing that audience as a middleman for brands, right? That was like the creator influencer model from like Web 2. We still see it with, these days. But Web3 is about building community as an end in and of itself, and then directly monetizing with your fans as an end in and of itself, by sharing in the value that you're creating. And it's a critical difference, because especially when we think about media, from my perspective with NFT Now, traditionally media has focused on building audience, but audience is aware that you exist. But community is very different. Community wants to see you win. And the amazing thing about Web3 is that oftentimes not only do they want to see you win, but they actually have a stake in seeing that happen. They actually are shareholders, you know, they own an NFT or they own that token or whatever it is. They actually can participate in that upside. And so it's a very powerful shift that's happening right now because we're able to take fans and turn them into like advocates and ambassadors in a way that wasn't possible before.
Absolutely. Like Bored Ape Yacht Club is a great example as to where everyone like that is in Bored Ape Yacht Club, from celebrities to just retail people like you and I, that are a part of this, yet have this open opportunity to connect and network with everyone within that community and help one another, which in the end helps Yuga Labs and the Bored Ape Yacht Club brand in general. And now you have a bunch of, what is it called? Happy Days Seltzer? Is that the Bored Ape Seltzer?
Yeah, Happy Dad,
Happy Dad,
yeah.
Happy
That's
Dad.
with like the Full Send Nelk Boys, right?
I thought that was so sick. Like,
yeah,
wow, we're
the
really
commercial
using
rights.
this stuff, and that puts Bored Ape Yacht Club at an advantage. It helps their brand, and it helps, and the people that are actually making these brands. It's mind blowing. People are actually using their PFPs as their brands, like their whole personalities, and making have you seen people that like have I think they could use OBS virtual camera, and it's basically instead of like me, you'll see an avatar and it moves with your face and your eyes and everything.
Yeah, so we actually, for the NFT Now podcast, we actually have had some guests who've come on who are anonymous, like G Money and Claire Silver, and they've actually done like AR filters based on like their CryptoPunks, which I thought was really cool.
I love that. And you said that you travel a lot, and we know crypto is for a global audience. And you said you were doing journalism in different parts of the world. Where were you again? And how did you feel that journalism has been impacted in general by social media compared to when you were starting out?
It's a great question. So I've been fortunate enough to live and work in a number of different countries in various like journalistic capacities, and also in the NGO work that I was doing. As I mentioned, I had like a very formative experience working in Cape Town, South Africa. I also lived for a year in Seoul, South Korea. I was actually teaching English there and doing like freelance journalism on the side right after school. Lived in Australia for a year. And then really critically, another very like fundamentally important experience in my life was working for an NGO called Search for Common Ground in Nigeria, actually doing like field research into security sector human rights abuse, and which was very serious and opened my eyes to a lot of the inequities and the issues that exist around like identity politics and conflict in the region. What was also amazing and inspiring was meeting so many incredible Nigerian musicians and artists that were like really championing incredible art forms, even despite like, what was a tough climate, especially in Jos, where I was based. And so what's interesting too is like, you think about journalism, what always attracted me to journalism was storytelling, and also the ability to reach a wide audience to make a positive impact. Which is one of the reasons why, for example, I moved from journalism more to the NGO side before kind of going back when I had the Billboard opportunity, was because I really wanted to like see action rather than just like writing stories about like things that were wrong. And so what's interesting is like journalism has had, I think, actually a pretty tough time in Web 2.
Yes.
Because as we all know, Facebook ads and things like that, ate into the areas that traditional publications were relying on for revenue. And I think in another sense too, we got to a climate where media companies were really reliant on like the top of funnel, like these really weak ties. So like, I always say that like if you go through your feed, most people these days are more loyal to the headline than they are to the brand. Like it could be any publication. You're only going to click it if it's like something that the headline interests you. Yeah. And that's the issue. Remember the whole thing I talked about, building an audience as a means to the end of monetizing as a middleman for brands and advertising. That's the Web 2 media model. And it doesn't actually serve the best interests of the readers,
not at all.
And so clickbait is a result of that. Clickbait is something that came about as a means of getting more clicks so that you can meet the CPMs and get like, get all those ad impressions and the like. And what sucks is it has led to like a dumbing down of the discourse and very like reactionary, hot take, type headlines that actually don't really do justice to the stories being told or the subjects that are being discussed. We've seen no shortage of this in the crypto space.
Yes.
Like I always said when I got into NFTs, one of the things that made me bullish is I was like, the coverage of NFTs in 2021 reminded me of the coverage of Bitcoin in 2013, where like, all these institutional players were just writing it off, talking about how it was a scam, talking about like,
Yeah.
just like all, the FUD as they call it. And I was like, fast forward less than a decade, and now you have all these big institutional players in the financial press actually like, they've made a lot of progress in how they think about Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies and the like. NFTs are still in that first phase. And so it was very important for us actually when founding NFT Now to pioneer like a Web3 community-centric media model. And so like, if you go on NFT Now, you'll actually see there's no programmatic ads. We're not trying to do the whole like click-based like race to the bottom. There's no pixel, like no Facebook pixel. We're not tracking you. We believe privacy is a human right and a fundamental right. And like, with NFT Now, it's about how can we actually create and share value as a media company with our most engaged audience and our community. We have some like very exciting things in the works coming up on that front.
Whoa, you really have thought this out so much because you've been through so much in the journalistic side of the world that you're like, okay, well, this is how I envision a media company being run, and you've executed very well. You're verified on all platforms. You have great engagement, good quality stories. I was even looking through the site this morning. I was finding out so many things that even I missed from a few months ago, and I was figuring out how I missed that. But you guys had me covered there, which I appreciate. I mean,
got you.
Finding Bitcoin in 2013 too is extremely, extremely early. And you starting a media company in NFTs, you're in a great spot because we're still extremely early in NFTs and crypto in general. How did you find Bitcoin, and what did you think about Bitcoin when you first found it?
It's a great question. So I was actually finishing up graduate programs, and I was in Milan, actually in Italy.
Ooh.
And it was winter. And I had like a few close friends there, but like I remember like the building where I lived, like everybody's like, I don't speak any Italian, like not many people spoke that much English. So the winter after like things kind of closed down a bit got a little bit like, I was spending a lot of time indoors, I was probably even paler than I am now. And I remember that like, that was like fall 2013, which was when like Bitcoin was like really, like we all remember that period, or like you've seen it in the charts, like Bitcoin was really rising, starting to get a lot more mainstream press and media attention. And I remember just like going down, I found out about it on Reddit, actually. It was Reddit. And I remember like reading Satoshi's white paper. And I remember like being like, that was amazing, but is there something that's like a little bit more like easy to digest for like me to share with my friends? And I found this like Bitcoin primer, and I started sending it to like all my friends and people I know, just being like, yo, like you have to pay attention to this. This could change like the financial system forever. And what's funny is like none of them listened to me. Except my dad. My dad bought a Bitcoin in 2013.
Good for him.
And funny enough, like we bought the top of that market, like it was like $900, but we just held on to it and for me, as I always said, like at the end of the day, like I'm not a finance guy. So, for me, I was always excited about the technology and the ability to have an alternative from the like centralized banking system. This was fresh out of the financial crisis. I graduated from college in 2008. So I graduated into the financial crisis, into all that. And, so I had seen firsthand, like, fortunately, I had the job lined up in South Korea, so I was like, peace out, US, and like went out east. But a lot of my friends really struggled to get like opportunities on the career-wise, in the immediate aftermath because of like just how badly the banking systems and the centralized financial system had bungled everything. And so the idea of a decentralized alternative to that really, really appealed to me. And I was already thinking then that like, what if, because I've always been so like plugged into music and I love music. I was like, what if there was a way for that technology to help the music industry as well? And, fast forward 2016 to 2018, that whole rise with Ethereum and all that, that was when I was at Billboard. And I realized I was the only person at that point on staff then who like owned crypto or like understood it at all. And so I started doing a lot of coverage around like music and blockchain. And funny enough, I remember like Bitcoin Twitter like kind of like had like a moment because I did a story on like DJs trading cryptocurrency in the print magazine. And I remember people were like, this is the first time that Billboard, this like venerated industry publication, it's been around since the 1800s, has ever like printed the word Bitcoin or whatever, or like something like that. And it was just like this milestone. And I was like, wow, I wish it had been like for a more serious piece, because it was kind of like it was like a fun, lighthearted thing about like DJs trading crypto. But what's funny is Blau and other DJs like RAC and Miha, who were really active at that time, and they're good friends and they're people I very much stayed in touch with as we started to look at like the intersection of music and blockchain and thinking a lot about royalties and things like that. And it's interesting because I always tell people like I feel like NFTs were kind of the missing puzzle piece. For like, how does this empower artists? How does this have this potential? And what's been amazing is I remember in 2016 to 18, I was trying to get people in the music industry to care about this technology. And it was like pulling teeth, like nobody cared. Now, during the NFT rise, I was getting bombarded from all angles because like, I had been like deep in the NFT side, and publicly so, before, like, months before Beeple or before the Blau sale or any of those. So like people were just like, we need to understand this now because they realized they could no longer afford to ignore it. And that's why I think NFTs are so powerful in terms of taking crypto and this technology mainstream, because like this is like art, music, and culture. And like you don't bet against art, music, and culture.
100%. You're so on point, Matt. Wow. Blau, I think I actually own a piece from him. And I remember when he first came out doing all this stuff, I think he was the first or one of the first, musicians to even hit the blockchain. And I remember seeing him hit Nifty Gateway. I was thinking, wow, this is so big for the music industry that a lot more people are going to see Blau and get inspired from him. And I'm sure you seeing NFTs in 2016, 2017 was like the stone age of NFTs. How do you think NFTs have changed ultimately from then until now? And how do you think they'll change in maybe the next 5-10 years?
It's a great question. So look, I mean, NFTs really exploded into mainstream consciousness and also into like really like significant sales volume, obviously from like 2020 to now 2022. And, it's been really interesting because a lot of the use cases that have driven that, are ones that are now like established in people's minds. So like, for example, digital art and digital collectibles. Those are two that like really help drive that bull run. Obviously gaming as well. But what's interesting is I think we still have so much further to go, and there's still so many use cases for NFTs that we barely scratched the surface for. And so like one of the reasons why I know how early we are is how the way that people tend to talk about NFTs like a category. They like lump Bored Apes and like NBA Top Shot and like membership passes and like all these things under like one roof and like, fine art and like, I'm like, this is ridiculous. NFTs are not a category. NFTs are a medium, and they are going to span every single category. They are going to disrupt every single field, in my opinion. They are going to fundamentally redefine how creators and their communities create and share value across all of these different fields. And so like, each of these different categories, whether it's, we talked about digital art and collectibles, membership passes, et cetera. There's also, we look ahead, obviously photography, music, poetry, literary NFTs, TV, film, more mundane use cases like a deed to your house or a deed to your car, identity, tokens, all of these incredible things. Like all of these things exist in the physical world, and they all have very different creative and consumer priorities at play. Like you don't buy a Monet for the same reason you buy like a Soho House membership necessarily, right? But like what's amazingly with NFT technology, like a piece of art could also be a membership. But right now, like what tells me we're so early is that people are lumping all these things together and expecting the same things from them. And it's silly. Like you think about it, it's like the whole idea of like forcing artists to like provide utility and roadmaps when like the utility is the art in their case. That's different for a PFP project. That's different for a membership pass. That's different for these utility-based ones. The debate around 0% royalties. That makes sense for certain projects. It also doesn't make sense for like, independent creators and artists necessarily. Like, there are all of these different use cases. And I'm looking forward to the point where we give them the the sovereignty that they deserve, and a level of understanding that, you know, just because it happens to exist as a non-fungible token on the blockchain does not mean we need to treat them equivalently or see them in the same way when we think about them. And so I'm very excited for that. And, you know, I do think that, like, you know, we talk about the bear market being a builder's market. I'm really excited by what I'm seeing in all of these areas, some of these more emerging use cases that I think are going to really help drive things as we move into the next cycle. And, you know, I've said before, I believe gaming NFTs are going to be a very big player in the next bull run. I think that's an amazing way to onboard people. And, like, just what we've seen, like, this week with Reddit NFTs is incredibly exciting for me. You know, with NFT Now, our mission straight up is to empower the creators of culture and help bring NFTs from niche to mainstream. So we're all about mainstream adoption. We are not trying to, like, preach to the choir of, like, this little cadre of the crypto native. We love the crypto native side, but we are trying to convert the masses, bring new people in, help them understand the power and the potential of this technology beyond just, like, a speculative asset and number go up, right? Like, so that's I think really critical. And so seeing a massive community like Reddit being onboarded to, you know, digital collectibles, if that's what they want to call them, fine by me, you know, like, again, NFTs are the medium. It doesn't make sense to call all of them the same things, right? They should all have different names because that's what they are at the end of the day. It's like, it's you know, it's the equivalent of, like, a physical object, right? And so what's amazing though is to see that community come aboard. That was a community that was actually very resistant to NFTs and had a lot of doubts and fears about them originally. And it's just been really exciting to see that. I think it's a really interesting case study for mass adoption, and it'll be interesting to see how other platforms learn and adapt as well.
You touched on so many great points, and I love that you're having, you know, the ease of onboarding people. You don't have to be an NFT genius to be a part of NFT Now and understand what you guys are doing. And yes, I 100% agree with what you were saying about how we don't have to call everything an NFT because, yeah, why can't an NFT game just be a game?
That's
and
right.
the NFTs, the assets in the game, it's a skin. It's a weapon.
Yeah.
It is what it is. We don't have to reword everything.
Your generation already understands this, but the issue is that there are so many, like, you know, my generation, they're having more hangups. And actually that's actually one of the things that, like, actually is driving what is, like, our most significant event that we have on the horizon for Art Basel, the Gateway.
Yes.
So we're bringing the Gateway. So we did the Gateway last year during Art Basel with Christie's. We turned like an abandoned floor of a bank building downtown into, like, a 23,000 square foot immersive audiovisual gallery. And the guiding principle behind it, and how we're taking it to the next level this year, is this idea that, like, all of us are part of the last generations to grow up without digital ownership from day one. And so, like, future generations are not going to have the same hangups as we do, right? As I said, your generation already gets this more than mine. You know, your generation gets it. Fortnite, Roblox, all of that, you know? And so, like, the thing is I see this future where future generations are going to grow up owning things digitally. They're going to own things physically. And they're actually just going to accept them both for their own unique strengths and appeals. They're not going to compare, contrast them, right click, save. Like, how do I hang it on my wall? Like, you know, they're going to have, like, epic metaverse galleries and, you know, all sorts of objects and cool things in the games. And they're also going to, like, hang art on their walls and have things in the physical world too. It's not an or, it's always an and. And so that was the idea behind the Gateway. And so this year, for anybody who's coming to Art Basel Miami, we're taking it to the next level. We're doing the Gateway, a Web3 metropolis. We are doing a 5-day event, taking over 2 city blocks, 12 buildings, and we're partnering with Mana Common. It's powered by MoonPay. And we actually just announced our first wave of partners, and some incredible partners like 9DCC by G Money, Art Blocks, Christie's is coming back, FaZe Clan, Instagram, Artifact Clone X, and many more. So, like, we're really excited because for us, you know, it's all about bringing new people into the space. So the Gateway for us is like a literal gateway to be like, come bridge these worlds, come get a glimpse into that future I was just talking about, where physical and digital live, like, side by side. They coexist in, like, creative harmony. And it's, like, also an open, like, extending, like, a welcome hand In our first iteration last year, it was to the art world, because I always joke that like if the only thing I knew about NFTs were what I read about in the headlines, I probably wouldn't like them either. You know?
Yeah,
And
yeah. If you listen to the FUD, for sure.
that's right. That's right. And so I was like, how about you come in and like we extend this welcoming hand and you get to see this community firsthand. You understand that like community is not just a buzzword. Like there is something really special happening here. This is a creative renaissance, especially if we empower it. And so this year we're kind of opening it up even bigger beyond just art. Obviously, we've got fashion, we've got gaming, we've got culture, we've got wearables, like it's just across the board, music. And what's really exciting too is it's open for free, so registered public. So we wanted to make something really special for everyone. So nftnow.com/thegateway, go check it out. And if you're in Miami, we'd love to have you.
This is a free conference?
I wouldn't even call it a conference. It's like a Web3 festival. It's like a Web3 metropolis. So there will be some panels during the day, but like not like tons of them, like maybe like 5 max per day, all like heavy hitters, all really on point. Incredible like galleries that we're co-curating. So like, we're taking over the DuPont building, which is this like amazing historic bank building. It even has like a giant vault with like one of those doors. Yeah, like those doors you see out. Exactly. Because that was why we did it at the beginning, was because we wanted to symbolize creators and creatives taking back power from the financial system.
Oh, I love that, Matt.
Exactly. It's that old Bitcoin. It's that Bitcoin. Those roots. But what's really special is like, so we're transforming this into this amazing audiovisual gallery. Like incredible projections, like tons of generative art, like crypto art, like all sorts of contemporary art, some physical stuff too, because like for us, it's important that these that we bridge that gap. There's going to be musicians, performers, tons of speakers. And as I mentioned, all of those incredible partners are going to be activating too, and they're doing immersive activation. So, it's definitely, I think, much more exciting than a traditional conference. As I said, it's open for free. It's registered public. So you can actually, if you go to, as I said, nftnow.com/thegateway, you can actually request an invite right now. We're opening it right up.
Yes, so. Friends in the chat, I just dropped that link for the gateway into the live chat. And I believe that link to nftnow.com and the Twitter link to NFT Now and Matt's Twitter is also in the description. So if you guys want to check everything out after the video's over and look at the really cool articles and the festival they have coming up, I'm happy for you. And finding, NFTs in 2016, super duper early. Why did you stick with NFTs for that long, to the point where you created NFT Now? And how long did it take you to create NFT Now? Where did that come from for you?
It's a really good question. And I want to be like, to be fair, while I knew about NFTs as early as like 2016, 2017, it was like CryptoKitties and the like. And to be honest, like, I wasn't that like deep in them. Like I was more focused on like it was surface level, because like I was really focused on like blockchain based solutions for the music industry. Like that's kind of like where my head was at. So I was like, CryptoKitties, like that's cool. Like they clogged up Ethereum, like that's like all that. But what was interesting was, so, as I mentioned, Blau is a good friend. And when the world shut down for COVID, I was very active on Clubhouse, and he was also pretty early on Clubhouse. And I would always see him at, events and festivals and stuff, but like, it wasn't like we were talking every day. Right. And because of Clubhouse, we were like talking more days than not, just because we were in the same rooms, like chatting, all these things. Yeah. And it was obviously an exciting time for the crypto space. And as, with everything kind of like on that upswing, as he started to get deeper into NFTs, I saw him talking about it more. I knew what an NFT was, but I remember this fateful call I had with him. And I was like, yo, Justin, like, I know what an NFT is, but what I need to understand is why you're so passionate about them. And it was like this 2-hour phone call that like every light bulb in my head went off. And he helped me understand that an NFT is, at its best, it's a new beginning. It's the creation of a new bond and connection with like your most loyal fans in many ways. Like he gave me this example. He was like, Matt, like this one really clicked for me. So I always talk about it. Cause like, he was like, look, like, I know I have fans in Mexico City as a musician, right? He's like, Spotify tells me I get this many thousand streams every month. He's like, but I can't reach them. If I have a concert in Mexico City, I can't invite them. I don't know who they are. Spotify has that data. They're not sharing it with me. He was like, but if through NFTs, I can literally take a snapshot of every wallet that holds my NFT. I can send them an NFT that's, a backstage pass to that show, or like, things like that. I can reward them. I can get them merch. I can get them things. Like, I actually have this incredible bond that isn't at the mercy of centralized platforms and social media algorithms and all of these landlords on the Web2 internet that like really milk the value and like consumed and sold all of our data. So like it really clicked for me, and I recognized that this was much bigger than just like obviously the concept of digital ownership is just a massive concept to begin with,
Yes.
but like even beyond just like, some of these assets are going to appreciate in value, that speculative side, he helped me understand from an early point the like true potential of this technology, which is to create these like bonds and these connections that otherwise like weren't really possible in Web 2, and really be able to now I think what he's working on now, Royal, which full disclosure, I am an investor in it, where he's actually allowing people to take the upside of like, they can essentially own a music NFT and receive a share of the royalties for it. So It's like, I think that's like a really interesting model. And I think it's exciting to see all of these new use cases around really like incentivizing fans to take part in being, as I said, going from like fan to ambassador and like, fan to shareholder. So, it started really going down the rabbit holes. What's been really interesting too is, while my background is in music, I became fascinated by the crypto art movement and like the early days and the early NFTs, because I think it's really important to to know where you're going. You need to understand where you've been, and I'm a big believer in medium native culture. Like I think that's like medium native culture is that it runs the space right now, and I think to a degree it will always be really, really critical to this. And so like you need to understand like what was motivating those early those early artists, many of whom came from Bitcoin.
Yes.
I interviewed guys like Crypto Graffiti and like artists who were like have been real champions there, and understanding why they got into it and how they channeled that into art. And now we have this new day for artists that's incredible, and like understanding where the ethos of this movement lies. And so I've become like a real I've been really down the rabbit hole on like the art movement, especially like generative art recently. I think is a really, really interesting that's really like helping drive the medium native side forward. And I love it because at the end of the day, it's everything that I loved, art, music, culture, prior to Web3, or before there was ever a term for that, finally like all being disrupted in a way that I feel has the power to empower creators. But we need to make sure that we actually build that better future. It's gonna, as you can say, like Meta's coming in, all the the bigger players are coming in. That's fine, but we just gotta also make sure that like we don't have Web 2 look exactly like Web 3, or excuse me, Web 3 look exactly like Web 2.
No, you made a great point, which someone in the chat even said, Matthew Miller. How do you see the ownership advantages of Web3 not being undermined by the tech companies like Web 1 and Web 2? And, people still don't use Web 1 is what he said too, which is actually very valid. But yeah, people are undermining our ownership abilities. I know Meta is trying to do things where you could put your Instagram and your NFT as your Instagram picture, or you could post your NFTs on Instagram, and Twitter you could put your
digital
PFP as an
collectibles.
NFT.
Yeah.
So how do you think we could protect the Web3 ecosystem?
Well, look, I think it only makes sense for these bigger players to adapt to new technology. So I'm not surprised to see it. I think it's natural. I actually think like what Instagram has done in terms of like allowing people to post like digital collectibles and NFTs like verified, I actually think that's a really important step towards mainstream adoption. It was really amazing to see like everyone was getting like on the new version of Instagram, the prompt about NFTs. That is a net good for us in terms of like awareness of this technology and bringing new people in. I think at the end of the day, we just need to also ensure that that we have a diversity of different actors in the space. I think like it's totally fine for Meta to have their metaverse and all that. Let's just make sure there's also an open metaverse, what Punk 6529 is working on and all that. I think that we just need to make sure that like you have optionality, because right now in Web 2, you don't have optionality. You pretty much you kind of have to use those, those big centralized, platforms. And I hope that with Web3, we build a future that looks different and isn't run by the same people.
I hope so. I really hope so. We really need to protect ourselves and make sure we stay self-sovereign in our NFTs and everything like that. I wanted to ask you before we head out what you think about the 0% royalties. I know we dipped into it a little bit before, but this has been something that's been on my mind and a lot of NFT creators, because NFTs have changed my life quite a bit in terms of how it opened my eyes, right? Like Bitcoin, cryptocurrency taught me that I could be my own bank, but NFTs taught me that I could be my own store. Hence, November 2020, I started my Wax NFT collection, where now I just, I mint NFTs. Sometimes I have things for sale. I've raised money for charity, which I did a few weeks ago, which I love that NFTs were able to do that. And and I actually give a lot of NFTs away for free. Like I have free drops and I give away NFTs all the time. And royalties are a great thing because it's sometimes it could circle back and I take my royalties sometimes and just buy more NFTs to give away. So I think royalties are really important, but I want to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, look, royalties are critical.
Yes.
Especially when we talk about artists and like individual creators. I think that like royalties are like a fundamental right in this space. The early crypto artists like fought for this, and like that 10% on super rare and all those like that's been kind of like codified. Like they knew that at some point this would come under attack. They knew that marketplaces wouldn't necessarily be able to enforce this, and it's up to us to enforce it because it's the right thing to do. It's the only thing that separates, not the only thing, but it's one of the most significant things that separates this from Web 2. I think gone are the days where we can accept like starving artists who like sell their work and then it resells for something huge and they get no part of it.
Yeah,
We've seen that
right?
in the traditional art world for too long. Now, I will also say that's the individual creator side. When we talk about like utility-based projects, PFPs, things like that, I understand why some of those projects choose to go 0% royalties. Like, DGods on Solana, I know recently did that. I'm not going to tell any project what they should or shouldn't do. I think that's their prerogative to make that decision for themselves. Where I take issue is where marketplaces are making royalties optional or 0% royalties and disregarding the royalties that different creators, artists, and projects have set. And so, like, to me, I think we need to protect that and safeguard it. I know that some like Manifold have done some really great work around like a royalty registrar and ensuring like through like consensus being able to like actually make these enforceable among like participating marketplaces. At the end of the day, look, if someone wants to sell something and not pay the royalty, they're going to be able to do it. It's not like fully enforceable there in many contexts. But just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. And
Yes.
I think that like we as a space, especially in the art world, in the music world, in the world of like individual creators, where like they really need that support, and where royalties are like can be critical. We need to stand up and say where our values are. And I know where my values are, and I know where NFT Now's values are, and we stand firmly on the side of creators and defending creator royalties.
Woo! Let's go. What do you think about NFTs? Are they here to stay? Are they going to fade away? What do you think, Matt?
Oh, they're so here to stay. Like, this is just the beginning. This is just the beginning. I mean, like, I always tell people, I'm like, when going through Bitcoin in 2013, going through Ethereum in 2016, like, I have seen this movie. I've already seen this movie and I already know how it ends. And again, that was magic internet money. This is music, art, and culture, and you don't bet against music, art, and culture. So NFTs are here to stay. And I think as we go further along and as we develop, the technology will fade more to the background.
Yep.
And many people will own and use and transact in and participate in the NFT ecosystem without even necessarily knowing that they're using NFTs. And that's a good thing. That's a good thing. That once we move beyond the talking about the tech and start talking about how this changes people's lives and helps people and like creates new opportunities, that's when we know that we're really getting into the mainstream adoption side.
I love that, Matt. You actually killed it today. This was a really enlightening conversation. I think it's what people really needed to hear in the NFT space, because I don't know about you, but I've been going in countless Twitter spaces and everyone's yelling at each other. Everyone's upset with each other.
Yeah.
Honestly, Matt, I'm so over it. I can't take the negativity anymore. So I really needed you to come on today and just express how bullish we are on this space, because we're so early still. And the fact that we have people like you putting out the good word and just explaining this to the masses, this is what we need. We need like the cool actors like you that are really going to put in the work. And you know what, especially eat a lot of good food in Williamsburg. Did you
Oh
actually, I
yeah.
wanted to ask you, did you hit the smorgasbord in Williamsburg? Do you
Oh,
ever go over there?
it's been a minute since I went, but I love that spot. I
Oh my
definitely,
God.
I've been many times, and yeah, it's delicious,
Yeah.
amazing, and the view you get of
Oh.
the skyline and the water. I love it. I mean, look, we definitely, we're spoiled living in New York when it comes to food, right?
Absolutely. I didn't get to hit the smorgasbord this year and I was very upset about it, but I did. They actually do have one in Miami. And the one day I was in Miami back, like, Bitcoin 22 was going on, I saw it. I was like, oh my God, the smorgasbord is here. I feel like I'm home. This is
I love
amazing.
that.
I love food, Matt. And you know what? You're a really cool person. And I love what you're doing at NFT Now. And I hope that your festival, the Gateway, goes really well. I'm really wishing you the best of luck with that. I know it's going to be a great week and it's a great week to onboard people, especially all the art people from Web 2 are going to come and hang out with you guys in Miami.
That's right.
Is there anything you would like to share before we leave? A message you have for the audience? It could be about food, it could be about New York, it could be about NFTs, it could be about crypto, whatever is on your heart. Let, sorry, let us know and let us know where we can find you.
Yeah. Well, look. I think you made a great point. There's a lot of noise right now. There's a lot of noise during a bull market, and there's also a lot of noise during a bear, right? The tenor of the noise changes, but it's still noise. With NFT Now, we're always trying to be the signal in that noise. We're always trying to be that signal. We want to bring new people in the space. We want to make sure that they enter the space in a safe and educated way. So we have plenty of resources available at nftnow.com, guides to all sorts of different things in the space. And look, if you'll be in Miami, we would love for you to come by the Gateway, a Web3 metropolis. As I said, it's 5 days. It's November 29th through December 3rd. Yeah, just go to nftnow.com/the Gateway. You'll see we have like our first wave of announcement of our partners. Plenty more announcements to come. Lots of artists, speakers, performers, etc. And you can request an invite there. I'd say like request it sooner than later. But it's open for free to the registered public. So we'd love to have you.
That's awesome. Guys, please check out Matt's Twitter. He always tweets some good stuff. Look at nftnow.com and their Twitter. They always tweet really great threads. They even tweeted something about the Reddit things that are going on with NFTs over there, and it was very insightful. I was reading it before we went on today. So definitely check out their Twitter. Always great updates on there. They're like the what is it? The Watcher Guru? Do you know Watcher Guru?
I do.
He's like
I
the
appreciate
Watcher
that.
Guru
Yeah.
of NFTs. That's what I was
Thank
thinking
you.
about. So you guys are actually killing the game. I really appreciate you. I appreciate everyone in the chat. If you enjoyed the show today, please like, subscribe, share this out with friends, and comment after the show is over. Let me know if you like the new intro and the outro we use. This is actually the first time I've used it. This is a non-fungible show right here in NFS. Thank you guys for joining the NFS, the Miss Teen Crypto Show. I hope you have a great day. Thank you, Matt. And as always, stay zesty. Peace.
Thank you for having me.